Thanks for staying with us. So, during the paper review, we took a story about Tobi Amusan's victory and how her father admitted that he initially wanted her to focus on her education. And he didn't think running or focus on athletics was the way for her, especially when we live in a country where those who engage in athletics are not always pushed forward or get into the international stage. So he was quite worried. And this brought up the question of young people today. What are the options we give our children? Do we encourage them to disobey our directives because they are passionate about what they want to do? Or do we think the onus is still on the parents to direct a child based on what you know society would give or not give this child? So that's our conversation today. How best do we raise children in this modern times, especially when they have a talent that is completely different from the academic path? That's our conversation. You can call us on 081-270-53687, 091-390-7694. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweets. I was sharing with you that my husband just came home and said, all his friends are signing up their children for all this athletics, so they heard about there's one in this place in Magodo. We have to go and sign up our children. I said, what's the issue with athletics? This Tobi Amusan thing. All the summer schools now are now adding athletics to their lineup. And I'm thinking, people are just so reactive in this country. What's your problem? So everybody's thinking talent. But in all the talent, should we still, how do you help a child? I mean, how does a parent, when a child says, I want this, and I say, no, you burn the shoes, you take the ball, you take everything, and you say, no, you must follow education. How do we know? How do we find a strike of balance?
Okay, this is a very silly girl. So, you know, during the time of our own parents, they did the best they could do with the resources available to them, with the knowledge available to them, and that's what every parent does, because you are a guardian. You want to be able to guide these children, and you have experienced some things, you have seen some things with your society, and you don't want to guide them wrongly. You want them to be the best. But we forget most of the time that we do not have the blueprint of these children. They are full-blown souls and spirits by themselves, and they have their path, my sister. They have their path. So what we can begin to do is to, while we tell them that these are the basics, we should listen and pay attention to where their passion lies and the drive within. So what our parents did in the first place was to say, education is the key. You must go to school. You must do this. You must do that, without really paying attention to those things that really interest the child. And some children were able to say, okay, this is what daddy says. I can't do this thing anymore. And they left that path and forgot about it. Some children are more insistent in their will to say, but I can do both. And sometimes they go through the way of disobedience. I use myself as a personal example. I remember when I was growing up, I was so much in love with football. My father is an athlete, by the way, and he got his scholarship, University of Ife, through, I think it was Delta State he was running for at the time. Always had, growing up, I see medals in his room and all that. He was really good. So he went to school with his talent. The talent paid for his fees. So he wanted me in his mind to pick up athletics. But I wasn't good in that. I loved football. And I remember him going to the coach to warn him, if I see my daughter there, they will break her legs. Her legs are too tiny. If I see her there, you'll be in trouble. And the coach drove me. I fell in love with handball. He went there and still warned the coach that because he's a sports person, he goes there, he knows what's up. He said that this game was too, what's this word? Was too aggressive for me, that I should play volleyball. Volleyball was boring to me. So I quickly left the whole sports for him, and I faced beauty pageantry as my direction, which he had a major problem with. I will not pay your school fees. I will be in Asaba. They will call me in Port Harcourt. They will see in the newspapers, blah, 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 blah. But to him, I was disobedient. But at the end of the day, it paid off. I remember when I won my car, and I called him, Daddy, I just won a car. You have to come with somebody to come and pick up this car in Warri. And that was when my father relaxed. Imagine if I did not follow my passion. Okay. So now that we are growing up and we are raising our own children, we need to tell them, for instance, my father insisted that for you to do any other thing, give me your certificates. you must be good in your grades, then you can follow your path. We can have that sort of insistence that give me this and this, then let's see how your path comes.
In a nation where you actually hardly have opportunities, especially when it's at academia, you hardly have, we're all preaching entrepreneurship. We're trying to get our children to have something more than just the education. But parents still believe that if you don't have that education, no matter what you do, you cannot find that footing in life. Do you think we should still direct these children, Mariam, or do you think we should allow them find their own path and disobey somewhat?
No, I feel that we have to balance it. We're older, and we're coming from experience. We have lived in our country long enough, we know what you can do. They are coming with a whole new vision about their lives. They have no fears, they have, they see no risk, they just want to live their lives. But we are there to also help guide them. Many people would say, what my mom used to say is that you must have a plan B, plan C, plan D. But I've heard people, especially motivational speakers, say people that have more than a plan A are just planning to fail. Because if you have one plan, you will face it. I don't really agree. I don't agree with that. I feel, especially if you're home, if it's Nigeria that is your country, with the way things keep changing, it's always good for them to have something that they can fall back on. I've seen people who, we talk about musicians today, the Wizkids and Davido, but they are not the only musicians in Nigeria. There are so many more who are struggling. I get into Uber once in a while. People are trying to give me their CDs or whatever demos that they have done. And they are constantly struggling, but they have the Uber that they are doing on the side or education certificate that they have on the side. So a parent is looking at best case scenario and worst case scenario. Parent wants best case scenario for their child, but also understands, okay, given this environment that you're from, let's see, if worst case scenario, you have something that you can fall back on. It's good to have that. Now, concerning this particular person, that Tobi Amusan, and how the dynamics of her own family, I think luckily for her, she had a mother that understood, and they were able to do it behind the father's back until she got to where... I have a personal story with my son. My son has always wanted to play football. But, you see my son, I just feel like, what football is he going to play? And he would insist. I took him instead to taekwondo, like, I just need him to be firmer and stronger. He would do it because I put him there. And one thing with him is he will do his best. Once he starts, he will try and do his best. His uncle came one time and just took him to a football club. And before we knew it, the first day we went to go and pick him up, I always say this story, it makes me laugh every time. We went to pick him up, he had joined this club, and we went to pick Foge up. And we're now looking on the bench because we definitely did not expect him to be playing. We're looking at the bench to see our son with this. Instead, we were now head on the go, Foge, pass it for her. And when we left, parents were hailing us, your child plays football. I'm like, really? Is that great? And the father now made a point of duty to be dropping him every time. And every time he comes to say, do you know another parent now told me that this boy is very good? The boy was insistent on what he wanted. And he took his uncle coming from the outside to, take that. So parents should also listen to what their children's passions are. Sometimes we think they may be too young, they don't know what they want. But as long as it's not something that will hurt them physically or mentally or emotionally, we can try and encourage them and be there to see how it affects them.
Let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we continue this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. We're still discussing how to help our children, especially when they have a talent and when you know that they're growing up in Nigeria, because there's a possibility that we don't have all the facilities to help push these talents. So how do you ensure that our children still are well-rounded? Nima, your thoughts on this Tobi Amusan's story?
So we seem to think that it's easy for parents to make these choices for you, or that it's just easy when they push you this way or that way, that they don't have times when they second-guess their decisions or when they even doubt their entire decision. You think, when I was growing up, what my parents considered my talents were things I enjoyed doing, and they allowed me to do them. So I had a childhood of play, serious play table tennis, play football. I would play when I'm tired, I come home and sleep. When it was time to do the things they considered my future career path, it was tough. I saw my parents would sit with my elder sister. I remember my father wanted my eldest sister to go to a school in the UK then. he got the forms, and her first jam, she had a seriously high score, but the WAEC wasn't out at the time. And I saw what every night, because I am discerning, I would hear my parents argue about how this is tough, how this has to be, what, costs. And my sister was every day, if I'm not going, daddy, So sometimes we are just children. So when it was time for me, I did not stress them. Even, I always say, my choice of marriage, I don't stress my parents. I always believe that they are also thinking of, I trusted them. And so when I needed to disagree with them, it would be a sit down and talk disagreement. You see this thing, I know how you feel about it, but this is why I want to do it. And so I saw that I usually earned their trust, and it seemed like it was easy. On the other side, it wasn't. As a parent, every time, I am now a parent myself, I'm worried about how I will be in the future. So what I'm doing is what was done to me. Expose my children to everything they consider talent to be. Let them play at it and have fun at it. Where I need to be a parent and protect them, because it's the protection part, I do it. And I'll say, this is why we are doing it. I'm not denying you this, but if I think you're capable of handling it, or you're capable of handling yourself, you can do it. And sometimes, I have turned my daughter away from sports. She's good in sports now. She's in athletics and all of that. I'm worried about some of these injuries because I saw my brother as a footballer. One time, all my younger brother's life, all of his life, he had health issues. My parents were protective of him because of his health. The guy wanted to play football. They didn't sign for him. I always signed as his parent, but all the forms. I paid for some of the registration for his football career. And one time, somebody just gave him an accident, broke his calf halfway in between. We treated him for months, and that career ended. So I'm worried about my daughter too, that we won't, accident just happened.
But there have been stories.
It's not easy for parents.
People who can tell you categorically it was because their parents forced them this path. That today they are successful. Their father said, you know what, you're going to do engineering, you're going to do this. And today they have jobs in big companies. And they're so happy that there's one in particular. That's like he was so playful. His father stopped him from playing, got him a lesson teacher. All he was doing was reading.
Yes.
Come from school, take 30 minutes out, go back and get your books. That the father drilled him for so many years. Today, he's working in an oil company outside the country. I think in Saudi Arabia or something. And he's happy.
Yeah, that's the most important
when parents hear these stories, they're also forced to say, stick to the education, stick to the academics, stick to it. Because in future, at the end of the day, that's the only one that is guaranteed. Athletics is not guaranteed. Football is not guaranteed. Music talent is not guaranteed. It's only the 0 point. Yes, there's a time frame. So the only one that I know that you have something for life is this path. Yeah. Is it wrong for parents to stop their children from doing that?
Mariah, I've also seen that nothing is guaranteed. There are no absolutes in life. I've also seen people with first class today that they are begging. They are still looking for jobs. So it's not about that. What I'm worried about is there are two things. One, let us not live through our children. So what I see is some parents who did not have a particular life now want to impose it on their children. Oh, because I struggled to be a lawyer, I did not have that opportunity, you must read law. And they stand on it without paying attention to what the child wants to do and what the child needs. And it's okay to do something and fail. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are no longer successful because you failed at it. You keep trying it till you finally get it. So we must have that balance. The second one is, let's not allow our limiting beliefs based on the experiences we've had hold our children down. Because I tried it, it did not happen. Or because Lagbaja went this way and it didn't work. If my child goes this way, it will not work. The beautiful thing about this is we are more mature now. We have more knowledge than our parents have. And it's very important that we observe. Our job, like Nima mentioned, is to protect the child. So there are times you will say, I put my foot down, you will do this for now. But there are times also that you will relax and say, okay, let's try it your way and see how that goes. And also depending on the age of the children. So I tell my child, saying that, right now, he doesn't want to do school. He tells me, Mommy, I don't want to. I can make money without going to school. I say, as long as I'm the one making the decisions in this house, till you get to a certain age where the decisions will now be handed over to you to rule your life, you will go to school under my roof or carry your bags and leave my roof. But he may get to a point when he gets to that age where he can be responsible for himself. And he looks at me and says, Mommy, I don't want to do this. What am I supposed to do? I will allow him. So
let me take this call. That balance. Aya from First Stack, are you there?
Yeah, good morning.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good morning, ladies.
Morning.
Good morning.
This is I'm a first-time caller.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I always, in fact, watch your show.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You're all doing well. Now, based on this discussion, I want to make a little contribution. Please, my advice is that do not stop your child or your children from exercising their God-gifted gift. You understand me? I play lawn tennis for Western region. I was the secondary school singles champion for 3 years. My father was not educated. My mother was not educated. I played for Lagos State. I played in Lagos State. I won the junior championship twice. Then I played for Nigeria for 3 years, lawn tennis. Then I moved to the U.S. When I got to the U.S., I played lawn tennis. And I got scholarship before God and man from 5 universities.
Wow.
So I decided which one I wanted to go. I ended up in Chicago, where I know. So therefore, but what I'm trying to bring out is that, please, let these children exercise their talents.
Thank you very much,
I
Ayo.
did not
Okay. Are you still there, Mr. Ayo?
school for 4 years. Eh?
Okay,
You say what?
Mariam has a question for you.
Okay, I was just going to say, can you recommend a tennis coach for my daughter, please?
We'll get
Why
you.
not? Why not?
Okay.
You see, I live in First Park.
Okay.
That is even my own son, my last son, I registered him to play lawn tennis.
Right.
In First Park.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ayo, because the reason why I wanted to come in here, I understand athletics. Well, see, I speak to some parents. The in thing now, I'm an artist. I want to sing, I have a talent. Every young person has a music talent. They're either rapping, they are singing, they are bugaing, they all just want to do their hair because they're now teenagers, 14, 15-year-old. They want to do their hair, color their hair, because for them, listen, I am a future Davido. So parents are now faced with, is this song now? Are you going to snap? So how do I get the child to snap out of this Davido mentality and say, listen, focus on your books? Or do we say, because he's singing Davido, we should allow him to continue singing Davido because it's not everybody that become a Davido. So parents are faced with that right now.
Yes, I remember one story of a Chinese entertainer. It was a big story then on the international news. His parents, he comes from a very wealthy family, and his parents had sent him to one of these Ivy League schools, and he was insisting on doing entertainment. So they asked him to do his 4-year course, and when he's done, he can be anything he wants to be. Yeah. He so much wanted to be that entertainer. He finished a 4-year course in 2 years. He had nothing to, and he finished he did so well. And of course, they let him do, what he wanted, but they're also pleased that he's good enough to have earned his degree and, of course, good enough to do it in a short time. And I've heard stories of the Zuckerbergs, the Steve Jobs, and what's his name, Microsoft guy, Bill Gates. Bill Gates' story, they would tell you that his mother was very much a part of him doing what he has become today. She pushed them, especially him. It was something that they noticed in childhood. She pushed him towards computers. She bought his first computer and everything. But we've heard of the others who had to hide to do it because their parents didn't understand. Some of them didn't even own the computers in their houses. They went to someone's house. So they're just different paths to get there. The thing is to recognize your child's determination. So I say to young kids when I'm talking to them is, if you really want to do it, if you sit with your parents and explain to them what you want to do, your parents would ask you to make a compromise. And you need to prove to your parents that you want it so badly, you're willing to do this, go halfway for them, and they'll go halfway for you. Yeah. They need to understand that the first thing, the most important thing is that your parent is doing this because they want the best for you. You see this youthful exuberance of the hair, you will see those who are pushing for it and those who will eventually just drop it on the way. You will see they will outgrow it.
See, now, let me give you an instance with me personally. When these talents come like this, I want to express, I want to show. I'm very grateful for my father's insistence on education. You must go to school. Any other thing you want to do, you can do. And I had that at the back of my mind. And I kept proving to him that my argument was always, but Daddy, I'm not failing now. Daddy, I'm not failing. Did anybody call you that I'm failing? I'm not failing now. And he will now calm down a bit because I knew where I was going. I was so, as a young person, I want to sing, I want to dance, I want to act. Your eye will clear. Your eye will be neat. Because now when the singing and dancing and every other thing I was doing did not work for me, what worked for me? I fell back to my education. And thank God I had it. And now I'm in a better position for me to express all of those talents. So it's just for you to present it to your children to say, this is just in case these other ones don't work.
I need to wrap up on this but I'd like to take your final comments and we're done with this.
So there's also the part of everything falling into place at the end of the day. So for your parents, they've lived their life. For a child, never lose the respect of your parents in advocating what you consider a talent. For me, for instance, I wanted to, at some point when Jam was not qualifying for the law course, to come and do media. My parents said, no, law, with all that we have seen in you, is law. But today, where am I? So leave it all. And, you know, don't lose family because of it. Some children think that it's rebellion that you must bring in. Leave it. At the end of the day, will fall into place.
Fantastic. I think we can end on that. That's all we can take on this segment.